We're news for business people.
Hello and welcome. You are watching Ask BQ on BloombergQuint. I am Pradeep Pandya.
Hi everyone, and I'm Navneet Saluja D'Souza. Well, this is the show where we address all your stock queries. You can write to us on Twitter, Facebook, or just call us on 022-4540-4141. Or you can also mail us at askbq@bloombergquint.com with all your financial queries, and we'll try and address as many as possible on the show today. Just remember to add the AskBQ hashtag. Well, let's get in our two experts of the day then. Sameer Chauhan of Angel Broking is joining us on the technical side, and on the fundamental side, Gaurang Shah of Geojit Financial Services are here to answer all your queries. Welcome to the show, gentlemen.
Well, before we move forward and take queries coming from our viewers on Facebook, Twitter, and also the callers who are calling in, let's have a look at markets. Nifty is holding above 10,000, rather 10,050 mark today, but more importantly, Sensex has crossed 32,000 level, and it's also holding on to those levels, gaining more than 100 points in trade today. If you look at it, across segment, mid cap and small cap have been doing better over the last two sessions. Today, they are more or less in line, so there is probably not that much momentum in mid cap and small cap space, but there is stock specific trade nonetheless. To talk about heavyweights, actually, it's the energy or the oil and gas sector which has been leading. HP, BP, IOC, the three oil marketing companies are doing well. And also, if you look at some more heavyweights which have been doing quite good in today's trade, you have telecom stocks. So Bharti Airtel as well as Bharti Infratel, both these companies of Bharti Group, in fact, are doing well in today's trade. So these are some of the gainers. Actually, one more stock I would like to point out is South Indian Bank. This stock that crashed yesterday after the results came out has regained more or less the entire losses of yesterday. Is up 5% today. So probably people realize later on that results were not that bad, Navneet.
And that's what we figured out while chatting with the management yesterday. It was just the provisions number which was not taken down too well by the street. But let's take our queries then. Our first query comes from Naveen Thomas, who writes to us on Facebook. Naveen's got 500 shares of Aban Offshore, which he bought at a price of almost 187.5. Naveen's got a 5-year view, and he wants to know if he should hold or sell. Gaurang, a query on Aban Offshore. Naveen is pretty much in the money as the current market price is about 195, and the stock, however, is doing pretty well today. But if I look at it in the last 1 year, it's been an underperformer.
That's right, Navneet, and my sense is that forget about 5 years, don't even have 5 months view on this stock. If you actually look at the history over the last 3 years, this particular stock has been a wealth destroyer and has taken #1 position in terms of wealth destruction for investors. It has got a lot of issues with debt on the balance sheet, though the company is trying to redress those issues. And the recent spurt in the crude oil prices has made all the exploration related, floating rigs related stocks to rally a little bit. We have a sell recommendation, rather we had a sell recommendation, our targets were achieved and we've dropped the coverage. My sense is that if you have a 5-year view, it is better you switch on to Petronet LNG, wherein we have a positive coverage, and the initiatives taken by the government in capex or addressing bottleneck problems down south facility has occurred extremely well, and there is a tailwind in terms of government policies for alternative fuel.
Okay, so you have a better option in this sector to choose from, Naveen. That is the advice for you. You can go for Petronet LNG rather. Arvind Kumar writes to us, and he has 500 shares of Marksans Pharma bought at 43 rupees with a long-term view, and he wants to know whether to hold or sell. Marksans Pharma, Gaurang, do you have a view?
Well, again, this is one stock which was a single-digit stock once upon a time. Pradeep, correct me if I'm wrong. As far as my memory serves me,
3-digit also.
Then it rallied to about, then it rallied to about 95, 100 odd rupees, and has corrected again. Now, when you see these kind of movements, I don't think they are credible enough for long-term investment. That they are at best trading bets. switch on to Granules India from a long-term point of view, wherein we have a positive coverage.
All right. Positive coverage on Marksans Pharma is what Gaurang has been suggesting. But let's take out another query for the day. Vishwesh Rajan writes to us. He wants to invest in Avenue Supermart and Mahanagar Gas with a long-term view. And he wants to know if it is the right time to invest into these counters. Let me take the Avenue query to Samit Chauhan first. Well, the stock's been on a tear in the last two trading sessions. Yesterday, it was up 6%. Today, once again, it's gained almost 4%, trading above those levels of 1200. Samit, do you think it would be wise to enter into this counter at these levels because it's already run up since its listing?
See, it would be too difficult to take this call at current level. First of all, the stock does not have sufficient historical data to analyze. So being a technician, yes, the trend has been quite strong. There has been no stopping for the stock. But if we consider the near-term charts also, risk to reward ratio does not go into favor of buying at current level. So I would rather advise him to wait for a dip. In case if dip comes, I'm not sure about it since I don't know the historical performance of the stock. But if this stock gives a decent correction, probably towards 1150, 1100, then risk to reward ratio becomes quite favorable. And in that case, he can get into this stock, but certainly not at current level. Yes, those who have been holding since its inception or since last 3-4 months, they can stay put since the momentum is quite strong. The stock can head towards 1280, 1300 at least. But if you want to get into this stock at current level, then it's certainly not advisable.
All right. So the risk reward may not be favorable if one wants to invest in DMAT at current levels. Well, Vishwesh also wants to know our expert view on Mahanagar Gas. Gaurang, would you suggest Vishwesh to invest into this counter? He has the long-term view.
So before I comment on Mahanagar Gas, Navneet, one slight correction. The earlier caller on Marksans Pharma, my advice was to get out of it and buy into Granules India from a long-term point of view. I don't know whether I got across right or not, or whether there was some audio problem, but Marksans Pharma was not something that we cover, and our view is a switch to Granules would be preferred. On both Avenue Supermarts and Mahanagar Gas, we are extremely positive. We had come out with a subscribe recommendation during the IPO. At current levels, if you are risk averse or you have a low risk appetite, start your investment at current levels and don't go 100%, but keep some space at lower levels to average. Thereby, you will possibly have a decent portfolio from a long-term point of view. And of course, you will have the benefit of averaging in case if the stock corrects at lower level from a long-term point of view again.
Okay, well, if you are watching us on Facebook, you could write to us. You can post your query immediately. You go to the comment box and write in. Ajay Singh Dodia has joined us on Facebook Live, and he's asking a question on ICICI Lombard or SBI Life. So he wants to choose one of these two. Gaurang, one is a life insurance and the other is a general insurance company, actually. Which one do you prefer?
This is a difficult one, Pradeep, because here again, ICICI Pru, ICICI Lombard, SBI Life, and in future to come by HDFC Life, whenever they decide to come out with an IPO and whatever valuation. On all these on all these four, in fact, one yet to come, we are positive from a long term. We'll advise the subscription, and as a matter of fact, on three, we have already given a subscribe recommendation. But if I have to choose between the both, and given the opportunity in terms of life insurance business opportunity and of course the capabilities to deliver thereover, maybe I would possibly look at SBI Life. But again, if I was in this place, I would equal weightage and put 50-50 in both.
All right, so 50-50 in both SBI Life as well as ICICI Lombard is the view coming in from Gaurang. Let's take our other query that comes from Swapnesh, who's written to us from Chennai. He has 500 shares of Reliance Capital, which he bought at a price of 867. He's got a long-term view here, and he wants to know what should he do with Reliance Capital shares quoting at 556. Gaurang, view on Reliance Capital?
So again, Navneet, I'm not sure whether this is an old investment or a recent investment. Before the businesses got hived off and listed as a separate entity, I'm talking about Reliance Home. And now you have Reliance Insurance also in terms of talks of hiving off the business and listing as a separate entity. in whichever possibilities, either old or new. If you are a long-term investor, continue to hold on.
Okay. Well, Darpan Agarwal has joined us on Facebook and he wants to know about sugar prices. I believe, Darpan, you actually want to know about what will happen to the sugar stocks, really, because we are talking stocks here. Samit, do you have a view on sugar as a commodity if you look at the chart, especially in the global markets? And what's your view on sugar stocks? Would you advise buying into sugar stock? Actually, Darpan is interested because he believes that in festive season, sugar prices should remain firm.
So Pradeep, I'll not be able to comment on the sugar commodity, but yes, if you talk about the sugar stock, they are certainly looking quite good. We have been quite upbeat on Dhampur sugar since last 3 to 4 days, and as a disclosure, we have recommended it to our client somewhere around 280, 282, and the stock has certainly done well in last 2 days. It has already given a sharp rally of nearly 7-8%, but we continue to remain a bet on this stock, and we believe that this stock has a potential to move higher from current level. So if one has to pick any counter within this sugar space, the Dhampur sugar would be our preferred pick. Any dip would be a good buying opportunity. 275 seems to be a very strong base now, and going ahead in next probably few weeks, we expect this stock to extend this rally at least toward 340, 345.
Well, Samit, since you're talking about Dhampur sugar, one of our viewer, Kapil Mehra, has written to us on Facebook. He's bought Dhampur sugar today just for intraday trade. That's what he's mentioned, at about 300 rupees. So for the day, what kind of target can Kapil expect on Dhampur?
See, since the ongoing momentum is quite strong since last 3-4 days, we have been witnessing buying interest at lower levels, and the stock has already rallied quite a lot. So considering the momentum part, I would advise him to stay put. 298 would be a strict stop loss, at least for an intraday perspective. And we believe that, once the stock moves beyond 307, 307 half today itself, then he can at least get a move towards 300 and 312. So from my side, for intraday perspective also, it would be a stay put. 298 would be a stop loss, and 310 and 312, these are the levels to watch out for.
Okay. Kailash Gehnani has joined us on Facebook, and his query is on CDSL. Gaurang, this one would be for you. He has bought 200 shares at 264. He wants to know, should he hold on? Can he also add at current levels?
I would say it's prudent to take money off the table, Pradeep. Here again, a disclosure, we had come out with a subscribe recommendation in the IPO with a long-term view, but the kind of rally that we saw post-listing on CDSL, I think the entire juice in terms of price appreciation is already there, and we did see the stock correct a wee bit from the elevated levels that we saw very recently. In terms of businesses, well, there is hardly any innovation that you can do in terms of the services that you provide. And the only income is from the number of, account holders in terms of annual maintenance charges, etc. So my sense is that at current valuation, if you are in money, you should take the money off the table, and there are better opportunities in autos, auto ancillary, private sector banking, like I mentioned, housing finance companies, metal, cement, FMCG, which we believe on fallback of second quarter earnings and the earnings to come by, Pradeep, will throw in tremendous amount of positivity and traction.
All right, gentlemen, stay with us. We've got a management of Goa Carbon. The company has posted its earnings for the quarter. Mr. Srinivasan, Tempo chairman of Goa Carbon, joins us now on the phone line to share with us all the earning details for the September quarter. Mr. Srinivasan, good afternoon to you, and thanks a lot for joining us today in BloombergQuint. I can see a sharp jump on your top line, even the bottom line. Also, if I look at the margins this time around, have expanded to almost about 16.6 versus 8, which was seen in the corresponding quarter. I was reading one of the notes in the earnings release, that the top line this time has factored in the GST impact, whereas if I compare the top line to the corresponding quarter, also the June quarter, that includes excise duty. Could you explain to our viewers what exactly the impact has been? Has that been the reason for a substantial jump on your top line?
So the reason for substantial jump in top line has been actually the tonnage. Just to give you a sense, we did about 43,000 tons in quarter one, against which we produced 56,000 for the quarter two. So there has been a sharp jump in volume. Just to give you also a sense that we've done about 150 crores of top line vis-a-vis 78 crores of quarter one. So there has been a jump in sales because the sales have touched 61,000 metric tons instead of 35,000 tons of quarter one. So there has been a big jump in sales and volume. Just to give you a sense, the capacity utilization is almost close to 100% for this quarter, vis-a-vis 78% of last quarter. So in terms of capacity utilization, volume, and sales tonnage, we've seen a huge increase.
And when you say that your capacity utilization is almost 100%, does that leave you with any kind of upside in terms of volume for coming quarters?
Sure. The coming quarter, that is quarter three, also looks very good. We have confirmed orders in hand, which we can say with reasonable certainty that we could do better numbers than this quarter. So we've already done about sales of 61,000 tons. So we want to better that for this quarter based on the orders in hand. The only unknown factors are two. One is the availability of railway rakes at the Pradeep because, most of our customers are based in and around Orissa. So we use a lot of railways. So we are trying to secure a lot of railway rakes as there's a big demand for railway rakes. And the other uncertainty in terms of, the bottom line is the rupee-dollar exchange rate. You may be aware that we are a heavily import-based company. We hardly have any exports because of the large demand of this product in the aluminum smelters in India. So our imports are almost 100% for material, raw material, whether our sales are 100% based in India. So that's one of the unknown factors that we need to take into account when we say that we'll do much better numbers for the coming quarter.
Since you said you're already at 100% capacity utilization, so even if you get more orders, will you be able to service?
We should be because we have some stocks in hand. We have close to about 60 crores of finished product. Our total inventory is about 110 crores, but out of that about 60 crores is finished goods in hand, so which we'll be able to sell in this quarter.
Sir, could you take us through the debt picture? I can see for the September quarter, the finance cost has risen. What's the reason for the same?
Sure, because of the increase in working capital requirements. See, this industry has a very peculiar, the availability of raw material is the key based on the specifications that the buyer wants. We need to blend about 4 to 5 kinds of raw materials. So it's a very complex process in terms of, meeting the actual requirements of the buyer. So we need to blend different kind of raw materials. So we do secure the raw material when we get the whole thing has been that the demand for CP coke has gone up. And as a result of which the demand for our raw pet coke, that is the green coke, which we use as raw material, is also very, very tight. So as we secure raw material, we get the right kind of raw material we secure, sometimes much in advance compared to what the requirement could be. And that's the reason there's an increase in the working capital usage. And as a result of which the interest cost has gone up. But that gets absorbed because our margins have gone up and our top line and bottom line both show a healthy increase.
Okay, thanks a lot, Mr. Dempo, for joining us.
Thank you.
Gaurang, do you have a view on Goa Carbon? Excellent numbers indeed.
Well, indeed, of course. And as you were speaking with the management, what I could fathom, Pradeep, is that there are good times ahead in terms of the business opportunity and the strategy that the management has elaborated in terms of the verbatim that they have just shared. Unfortunately, we don't have a specific coverage, so can't comment on it. But earnings have been good, and my sense is on fallback of the new strategy, they can improve even further.
Okay, that's the view on Goa Carbon. Good set of numbers, a strong quarter for the company, and the stock too has recovered from its day's low. It's currently quoting gains of almost 2% at 636. But let's go back and take more viewer queries from Twitter this time around. Dhaval Bayani has written to us. He's bought 200 shares of State Bank of India at a price of 253 with a long-term view. Dhaval wants to know what should he do with this investment on State Bank of India. Samit, on the charts, what would you suggest? How is State Bank of India looking? Well, currently almost trading at days low at levels of 254. So pretty much the same price where Dhaval bought.
See, If you look at the overall space, PSU banking space, it has been clear underperformer since last couple of months at least. And within this, SBI has corrected quite sharply from higher levels of 300. So we would expect some kind of underperformance to continue at least in coming weeks. We would expect the stock to gradually slide towards 245, 240, which is the major support level in the near term as well as medium term. So at least in the near term, we won't see any major price appreciation as such. But since the downside is limited from current level, probably 6 to 7% downside is possible. But one can certainly hold on to it considering its broader degree chart structure. That certainly looks encouraging. The stock is undergoing a time-wise as well as price-wise correction. So at least for a time being, he can hold on, and if he wants, he can add on once the stock reaches 240, 244 level also. Once the stock gives a decent bounce back, 270, 275 is the levels to watch out for, and that would be a strong resistance at least in the near term. So as of now, we would expect some kind of consolidation within a broad range of 270, 275 on the higher side, and low side 240 would act as a very strong support.
Okay, so these are the levels to really watch out for in SBI. Raj Shah has written to us on Twitter. He has bought 1,500 shares of Deepak Fertilizers at 260 rupees. Deepak Fertilizers, what's your view, Samit?
From our end, we have been closely tracking this stock since last couple of months, and in last couple of weeks, the stock has given massive price appreciation. So if we talk about the trend, it has been certainly in the upward direction since last many months. This stock has been one of the outperforming stock within this space. So it's a stay put from my end. Now 380, 385 seems to be a very strong support, and he has bought it at very low level. So he can hold on. 380 would be a stop loss, and we expect this stock to continue this rally at least towards 465, 475 levels.
All right, Raj, we hope that you're watching our show. The target which Samit has mentioned can be northwards of 300 on Deepak Fertilizer. But let's take the other query that comes from Dexter DeVito, who's written to us on Twitter. Well, he wants to know between Asian Paints and Pidilite, which is a better bet for long-term investment. Gaurang, both these stocks are trading with rich valuations. Would you recommend Dexter to put his money in any of these counters?
Well, Navneet, again, a difficult way to answer either one of them, because we have coverage on both of them. Rich valuation is purely because of the earnings, and our sense is that the future quarters to come by, YOY earnings are going to be looking much stronger. And they're into different businesses, of course. Pidilite has got almost monopoly in the adhesive segment, and of course they have come out with some new innovative products which has actually created an opportunity for the company to garner a larger market share. Asian Paints, which is into paint industry, is one of the leading companies, of course, amongst the paint companies listed in India, has got products across different verticals, whether it is decorative, whether it is household, or whether it is automotive or industrial paints. Lower crude oil prices benefits the company. So again, I would say, we have coverage on both. You can pick either of them.
Okay, choose either of them. That's the call. Amol Wagh has also written to us on Twitter, and he wants a view on Ricoh Auto. Samit, you have a view on Ricoh?
No, to be honest, we don't track this counter, but if we look at it from a slightly broader perspective, the stock has already given a massive rally in last couple of months with sizable volumes. So at least at a lower level, there has been some kind of buying interest in this stock. He can hold on to it. 90, 88 seems to be a very strong support, so one can maintain a strict stop loss around 88 rupees. And once the stock surpasses its recent high, which is around 105, we could expect a decent appreciation at least towards 118, 122.
Okay, that's the view coming in on Ricoh Auto. Rohit Gunjikar has joined us on Facebook. He wants a long-term view on Rain Industries, as he's holding 300 shares of Rain Industries at a price of almost 121. And currently, I believe the shares are quoting around levels of 190. Gaurang, this is one of the counters which has given good returns this year, up almost 250%. Would you recommend him to book his profits or continue holding it?
Well, difficult for me to take this one because we don't have a fundamental coverage in terms of return, and given the run-up that the company is on, I think if I was in place, I would at least take part profit off the table. But no specific comments on the company since we don't have coverage.
Okay. there is an interesting stock that Ravi Udupa wants to talk about is Quarter and Whale. Is that a stock, Gaurang, that you have looked at? Any views?
Again, it's been off the radar for a very long time. It's one of the oldest entities, if I'm not mistaken. But again, Pradeep, no coverage.
Okay, you don't have a coverage on that, so we cannot really reply to it. Ugar Sugar is another stock. Bharat S. Powell wants to know about this. Ugar Sugar, Samit, do you track Ugar as well?
No, to be honest, we don't track this counter, but this stock has been one of the underperforming stock within this space. So as I have highlighted in my opening remarks also, if we have to pick any stock from sugar space, we'll go with Dhampur Sugar.
Okay, so Dhampur Sugar seems to be the top pick in the sugar space by Samit. But let's take Arjun Bajpayee's query. He's written to us on Twitter. Arjun wants to invest in Hindustan Unilever. He has a long-term view and wants to know if this is the right time or the right level to make investment into this counter. Gaurang, HUL, if I look at the returns in last 1 year have been good. The stock scoring very close to its all-time high levels, above the 1200 mark. But the recent commentary by the management that the demand revival in the rural market has still not picked up. Do you think at 1200 or 1210 it could be a right buy?
So I think, I've been a miserable failure in terms of timing the market or, guessing the right price. Effectively, when a person asks me that, that person is asking me whether after I buy it, that stock should not go down and it should go up. So I have miserably failed and I have stopped timing. And my advice is that you start your investment, don't go 100%. In case if you have a low risk appetite, you can average at lower. HUL, we have a positive coverage. Demand has not gone up in the recent times, but we are quite sure that with a good monsoon, GST, demand is going to be at an elevated level. And our sense is that contribution from semi-urban and rural India is going to be adding to the earnings visibility. Plus, they have ventured into herbal and Ayurveda products thanks to Patanjali, which again will improve the numbers from the higher level. So other than, of course, that royalty payment to Unilever parent company, there are no gray areas. Concern could be in terms of promos and, new product launch expenses and advertisement expenses, but that could be a, barely short to medium term. Long term, we remain positive. Start buying, add on dips.
Okay, we are running out of time, but Samit, if you could quickly talk about Sun Pharma. Suraj Bajaj wants a short as well as long-term view on Sun Pharma.
You can hold on. We are quite upbeat on this stock since last 1.5 months, and as a disclosure, we have been recommending since the level of 476. So we would maintain our positive stance on the on this particular stock. 500 to 480 seems to be a very strong base now. Any dip would be a buying opportunity. In the near term, we would expect this stock to head towards 565, 580. But with a slightly broader perspective, we expect the stock to move towards 620, 625.
All right, Suraj, so if you've bought Sun Pharma, hold on. That's the advice coming in from Samit. On that note, we'd like to thank our guests. Thank you very much, Samit, as well as Gaurang, for helping our viewers with regard to their queries. Well, that's all that we have on this edition of Ask BQ. But do remember, we're just a tweet, post, or a call away. So keep your queries coming, and we promise to address all of them through our shows. Don't go anywhere. Power Lunch is up next, so keep it with BloombergQuint Live.